Hi, I'm Prepper Kiwi Carolyn.
Hi, I'm Prepper Kiwi Rose. In this series we'll be talking about crafting and making anything that you might need for a prepping situation.
In this video we're going to be making Kumarahou soap.
Ingredients needed for the Kumarahou soap: 1.4 litres of olive oil, 144 mils of water, 177 grams of sodium hydroxide, and you also want to have a digital scale, a large pot and a stick mixer for mixing everything together. Also you'll need a spoon and probably a spatula and a digital thermometer, probably two. You can do it with one, but two is best. And you definitely need safety glasses, some gloves and a mask for when you're mixing the sodium hydroxide. So the first thing that you need to do is mix your water and your sodium hydroxide together. This is the most dangerous part. The temperature rises very quickly. It'll produce quite a intense gas. Mix somewhere where you've got airflow. Outside is best, or if you're in a garage or somewhere where there's open windows, not in an enclosed space. Make sure that you mix these mix the sodium hydroxide in a heat-proof glass jar. While the sodium hydroxide is cooling down outside, we need to start heating the oil, and we need that to get to 38 degrees. So we're heating one thing up and waiting for the other thing to cool down. We want them both to be around the same temperature just so that they mix well together. The heat is on low and the oil will heat up very quickly. This is why it's good to have two separate digital thermometers, because you don't really want to be swapping them around between the sodium hydroxide and the oil.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's logical.
The oil is still a little bit hotter than what we want it, so it's actually quite hard with the timing of things to get them around the same temperature. So generally I will allow a difference of maybe at the most 4 degrees before I start mixing them, but you really want them to be as close to temperature as possible. Once the oil and sodium hydroxide has been mixed together, we want to mix it in a figure 8 kind of pattern, which is probably what people do with soup as well. It's just a similar process. So you want to mix it until you reach the thin trace state, which is just starting to look a bit soupy.
So that might take you 5 or 6 minutes of mixing.
Then you want to keep mixing after this, and you should eventually get to the medium trace state, which is when it's a little bit thicker, starting to resemble a custard type consistency.
And when you've reached the medium trace stage, you can, depending on what sort of soap you're making, you can add anything that you want to put in there. So we're making Kumarahou soap, so we've got Kumarahou flowers and we're putting them in now.
We've mixed the flowers into the soap now, and they're all pretty well blended, just a couple of minutes, and we're going to pour them into the molds.
We've got 2 molds. One is a plastic mold with tree stencils in it and a silicone boxed mold.
Just giving everything a bit of a tap just to get the air bubbles out and just keep it a nice flat even consistency. Should be just enough for one of these. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
We thought it would be nice to have a crumble of Kumarahou flowers on the top. Looks good.
Now we're just storing these in the bottom of the pantry for 24 hours before we cut them. We don't want to store them for longer than that because the soap will harden and it will be harder to get out of the molds or harder to cut. And we want to store them somewhere dark, but it needs to be not too cold so that the soap doesn't harden too quickly.
The next day we got them out of the molds and they were fantastic. Generally they take a couple of weeks before they are cured, and the longer that you keep them in that cupboard, the harder they get. And I've been using these and I find them amazing. They're so soapy and lathery and just wonderful, and hopefully people will try and make their own. See you next time.
See you next time.
It's nice out here tonight, isn't it?
It is actually.